of the Michigan Lacrosse Review. My name is Greg Norman. Well, we're going to spend the next two shows talking about the Michigan Interscholastic Athletic Association, Division III NCAA programs, one of the best leagues in the country that has certainly got lots of recognition lately, and I say lately being the last few years. We got a chance to sit down and talk with all 7 coaches in the league, and they're going to give us a little bit of insight to their various programs. On this first part of the series for the MIAA preview, we're going to get a chance to talk to Jake DeCola, the wonderful 15-year coach at Albion, and a guy who had them ranked last year #1 in the region, which I think is pretty terrific. We're also going to get a chance to stop in and talk with David Hogger at Calvin, and I think that'll be a great interview. And then Ryan Kuhn is going to talk to us all the way from Angola, Indiana, part of the Trine University program. If you're not sure who Trine is, it's part of the MIAA, but they're also one of the few schools in this league that has a hotel room you can rent as part of the stadium. It's kind of a unique event, but we get a chance to talk to Ryan in his 4th year at Trine. We will bring you the other 4 schools in the next edition of our show. But we want to get this going with a conversation with Jake, and we'll be back in just a second. Welcome back to the 2024 MIAA Men's Lacrosse Review for the Michigan Lacrosse Review. And we're talking one of our favorite coaches, Jake DeCola, who starts his 15th year at the wonderful school down sort of south of Lansing, if you're not familiar where Albion is. And Jake, thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Right here. I learned that when I got out here.
You're a New York guy. We've had a chance to talk to Jake on a couple of occasions. Let's start with the easiest part. And
Boston, actually, Greg. I think we got in a fight about this last time.
Okay. I'm going to start this thing over again. Jesus. I know you coach in Utah, so that much I do know. Let me start over.
No problem.
Welcome back to the 2004. No, I'm going to say 2014. All right, now here we go. Welcome back to the 2024 MIAA Men's Lacrosse Preview for the Michigan Lacrosse Review. All right, hold on 1 second.
These outtakes could be a whole show, man.
I do my outtakes about every 3 months. I got some that you laugh your ass off. A quick story, and there's a lady. Now I can't remember her name. Oh my God, she was the first American woman to ever be on an All-American. She's won gold medals. She's got an unbelievable sailing career. She's just Dawn Riley. She was the first woman skipper on All-American on an all women's America's Cup boat, and they actually they challenged for it. And I've interviewed Dawn 100 times. I know her pretty well. I go up to her. She had a seminar in town here, and I said, "We're talking with Dawn," and I forgot her last name. And she goes, "Riley." She goes, "Riley," and I said, "God, Dawn, I'm so sorry." So I ran a big thing that said, "Dawn, I'm sorry, I forgot your last name, but it's that half-timers that I have at the age of 69." So it's
Yeah, I know. Well, you mentioned Doug earlier. I think I mistakenly referred to him as Maserati.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it came up, but it just happened. And man, it was so funny. The people I was with were generous, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Those kind of brain farts are tough.
Yeah, for sure. So let me start this again.
All right.
Welcome back to the 2024. Welcome back to the 2024 MIAA Men's Lacrosse Preview. We're talking with one of our favorite coaches in the league, Jake DeCola, starting his 15th year at Albion. And Jake, you've had and built an unbelievable program. So we'll just start with the easiest of all questions. So you got started. You started this. You opened your season on the 17th against Otterbein. So how are things to start the season?
We're playing with a ton of energy right now. We have I think my biggest work ahead of us, and it's been a lot of fun. It's for the first time ever, I think, in the history of our program that we didn't know what our returning attack group was going to look like. So even year one, we had done a little bit of recruiting, had some guys from the old club team. Only a few of them came out, but I had a sense, you know what I mean, of what we're going to be at attack. And so, we just graduated Jace Conley, is 3-time All-American, and certainly will be one of the best players to ever play in the league and set all type of league records and Albion records. And certainly to be a three-time All-American is pretty special in our part of the country. So, real proud of him for that. But it leaves big question marks about what we look like. And, figuring that out, I told my guys over the summer, like, this is why I get paid the big bucks and these are my challenges. And, it was a lot of fun to just play with the offense and play with the guys in different spots and just kind of see where we fall.
14-5 in 2023, 6-0 in the league. You have a tough loss, a 9-goal loss to Hope in the MIAA finals. Does that leave a bad taste in your mouth coming into this year, or is that sort of wiped over? It's a new year and off we go.
I mean, I don't know about a bad taste in my mouth. Like, I think about what I get to do for a living. And every morning when I wake up and I do my reflection, I think about how lucky I am. I tell the guys every day, like, it's usually third, fourth thing after like my dad's health, after like my family's health. And like, got this little border collie that we rescued last spring. And like, he's up there on that list. But like, as I'm being really like thoughtful about the things in my life that are unbelievable, this is one of them, and working with these young men, like certainly it was I wouldn't say a surprise, right? Because we knew that Hope was going to play a great game, but yeah, it didn't feel great. And it's funny, like I think the guys who graduated 2, 3 years ago understand that loss better than the guys on my team currently, right? And I think it's very easy to say, oh, we put 20 up on everybody, so it's going to be fine, and automatically forecast, where we're going to be. But this is why we play the game, right? Like, it's an opportunity for two groups in opposition to experiment, right, with that opposition, and then like there's going to be an outcome, and someone in lacrosse is going to win and going to lose, and so like figuring that out is, I think, been important for our guys. And I hate it for some of those seniors that kind of walked away shocked. You know what I mean? And we're the number one team in our region all year last year. And like, our region isn't necessarily recognized as being the strongest in the country, right? So, that ranking certainly didn't carry us into the NCAA tournament. So that game is really important, right?
Yeah. In 15 years there's some continuity that's built in because you've been there for a while. Do you
Sure.
recruit? What are the pluses of being around for that time frame? And maybe what are some of the things you have to kind of watch out for? The complacency may be one of those things, but what is it that goes to your mind in the preseason?
Yeah, I don't know like what the watch outs for are. You know what I mean? I don't know what that looks like, and what other young people hear from coaches or whatever. Like, I don't know what that looks like. You know what I mean? I'm not privy to some of that stuff, but like, I know what the pluses are. And like, we have a kid right now, Timmy Salinas, who's been an incredible player in our team. He's started and played in every game his career. I don't know if he had a game where he wasn't healthy, maybe one, you know what I mean? But like, he made all league defense after being a midfielder his entire career. And, he's back in the midfield now. I don't think that's a surprise for anyone, but like, we're unhealthy at defense. We moved him. And I think about like how rewarding that is. But like, specifically with the question you asked, Zach Hubble gave him his first lacrosse stick when this kid was a little kid. And like, Zach Hubble made field, he was the first guy in our league to make field and academic All America in the same season. And like, that's pretty special. It's hard to do. And Zach did that incredibly well. But like, the fact that Timmy is on our team now, you know what I mean? And like, I remember seeing Zach play high school as like a sophomore. And like, that was seems like such a long time ago, like in the early one at Country Day. I can't remember what that tournament was. The Can-Am, and working with Zach, and like, I mean, we immediately were like, this is a guy we want to follow and get to know. And the fact that he's teaching, Timmy years later and presenting him like, here's your lacrosse stick. And that's the way I learned, you know what I mean? Back in north of Boston when I was a kid, like, somebody gave you the stick because there weren't that many around. And so having that happen and having guys like that in our program, and like little brothers come in and like we've had like we have a sister of a kid who's playing for me who's a junior right now, who's a freshman on the women's team. That stuff's really cool. Like we just graduated a young woman who was an all-league player on our soccer team whose brother played for me in our first year as a program and graduated as a 4-year guy and like will always be remembered as a founder of our program. So that kind of stuff is really cool.
Before we talk specifics, I just got one simple question. You've built Albion into a national power. You certainly are a regional, mainstay. Is it harder to maintain the quality of the kind of teams you've had since 2015, or is it harder to start a program from scratch because you've done both?
It's different hard. It's different hard. Like it's very easy now for guys to like, we talk about this a lot. When we have a guy like Jace Conley come in, who has been the staple piece of the offense for 5 years, and then like he's raising the bar for everyone at practice every day, right? But also he's taking on a lot, right? He's taking on doubles. He's taking on the responsibility of running the extra man group, taking on a leadership. He was a quiet leader, but he took on a lot in the way of leadership. And then how high he held our standards. And then like it's easy, I don't think it's fair to our current team to say to hide behind that work, but it's easy to allow that work to take place and to allow the mule to pull the cart a little bit. You know what I mean? And to just kind of ride on the cart. And so, like, as we're growing, we realize that when we graduate good players, great players, that we have a responsibility to our legacy, the program that's been built here at Albion and those alums who want to see us be successful to raise the bar for ourselves. And that is a challenge that the first group of guys didn't have to deal with. You asked me the balance of between those two pieces. And I'll tell you, building a program from scratch out here was not easy. I inherited a program of 28 kids on the club team and 3 showed up to the first meeting. And I think 2 or 3 ended up playing in the first year and that was it. So that was a shock. I think, as I understood the rumors, like those guys in the day would like bring a keg out, to the sidelines and, the party life was a big part of hanging out and being a part of that. And I guess the message got out that would be a little different with me there, and maybe it wasn't as fun sounding, but like, we have one of our committed guys and I just explained to him that like, when I said yes, it was saying yes to a really awesome college, right? One of the best in this part of the country. Like we were just like second in the region, I think, for liberal arts schools. And like inheriting what you think is a team of 28 club kids and moving your family across the country and then getting to your first meeting and having 3 of them show up. And the only kids you see are the 10 kids you brought in on pretty short notice and pretty quick turnaround. And then you're like, how are we going to play a lacrosse season with like 13 kids? We pulled a guy out of the weight room who was deadlifting at 6 a.m. We're like, maybe this guy would want to do something. And his first lacrosse game he ever saw was like the game he played on opening day. So that was a different kind of challenge. I think if you ask my guys what's harder, they'd say being around me in those first couple of years was definitely harder.
Okay. The thoughtful coach that you are, if you could give us your sort of mini version of what you think the 224 season will look like for Albion in the MIAA. Give us your thoughts of where you might end up, hopefully at the top, but I'll let you figure that one out. So what do you think?
Oh my God. If I had my crystal ball for this, I would still have Tom Brady at the Patriots,
Right.
I trust that, we are going to experience some tough challenges in our preseason and in our non-conference season that'll prepare us for the battles that will be taking place in the league. I mean, I think last year, it was really competitive. We put a ton of points up in normal league play, and then you look at what happened, in the playoffs. So I just think that, at any given moment, it's going to be anybody's game, and we have to be prepared to execute at a highest level for, like any game we through May.
I think it's also safe to say that the MIAA has now a national reputation. You may have not had that maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but with Hope and with Albion, certainly with
Yeah.
Adrian, you guys
I
have
mean, I
there's
think,
always that comparison to that Northern Ohio League with Kennis, with Denison and Kenyon and some of those kinds of schools. This is one of the best Division III leagues in the country. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think you'd agree with me on that.
yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely getting stronger in terms of our recognition of, what an MIAA team brings on game day. And like, stylistically aside, like, you can certainly look at, certain teams from certain regions of the country and certain leagues and say like there's a certain style, but like, I don't know that, if anybody's playing, one of our top four teams in the league, that they're going to take any of them lightly, and I think the teams that are building too are also doing a real good job and playing tough schedules. And like you look at some of the wins out of conference last year, and I think it does get people's attentions for sure. You mentioned the NCAC, and like, um, I watched, like, we played Kenyon last year and they were outstanding. And, and Doug's a friend of mine, a guy I trust quite a bit. And, he and I talked a lot about, I think about the recognition out here in the Midwest, and like Denison is, top 15 every year, top 10. And like, you think about what they bring to the table in terms of competitiveness. And like, if they lose, a tough game, all of a sudden it's because maybe they're not that good and they drop down. But if they win against the top 10 team, it's like, maybe those guys aren't that great, And so when I start to see that, I'm like, well, I'm looking at the rankings last year and I'm thinking, Kenyon's one of the best teams in the country. And then like they go as an at-large because, when they start looking at who's left in the pool, you can't not make a case for a school like Kenyon. And they did an outstanding job. I think it was ended up being a three-way split for their league. But it's like you start to see that, and then our league teams, the MIAA, playing good quality games with the NCAC teams, and yeah, I think it's no accident that the MIAA is being recognized as a pretty good league.
Well, appreciate you taking the time. We certainly wish you the best of luck this year. We will stop in and cover the league a little bit this year. Hopefully, come up with some individual stories, and hopefully at the end of the season, Albion is playing somebody for a chance to play in the NCAAs.
Yep, absolutely, Greg. And I appreciate you taking the time. I know, I think it was the last time we talked, you mentioned something to me about the young woman on our roster, a young girl. So if you have any questions or some time in the future, you want to talk a bit more about Harper Mathis and what her family is going through in the battle they're facing, please let me know. I'd love to talk with you about it.
Thanks, Jake.
I want to thank Jake for taking a couple of seconds out to let us know what's going on with Albion. Up next is Ryan Kuhn from Trine. We'll get back with him in just a second.
Welcome back. We're talking with Ryan Kuhn, who is the head coach at Trine University. He's the head men's lacrosse coach as we're doing the 2024 men's preview for the MIAA. And first of all, Ryan, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And you've got some games coming up here pretty quick. But the reality is, how's the first part of the season started?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me on and getting the opportunity to talk with you about our program and everything that's going on. But yeah, we're in the thick of things right now with preseason. We just got our first scrimmage done and out of the way this past weekend, which was really great. And obviously, we got to play a quality opponent and get a chance to kind of see what we're doing well, what we really need to work on. But the reality is, man, season has come out of nowhere, and then we open up next weekend against Dearborn. But the one thing that I will say is that we had a rough week of about that really cold weather, but for the most part, knock on wood, the weather has been cooperating so far this early in the season. So we're very, very pleased with that.
9-5 last year overall, 1-5 in the league. You didn't have the best conference schedule. Finished at 9-5. What's the improvement? What are you looking for improvement from this year off of that?
So I think some of the things that, we really tried to flip the script, coming in, I think one of the best constants is that, we've had stability within the staff. Coach Lang, Coach Vinny Lang, the legendary Coach Vinny Lang has been here essentially since the program started. So he was the head coach here, transitioned to full-time teaching and pivoted to an assistant coaching role. So he's been, phenomenal to the continued growth of our program. Last year, we kind of struggled. We had a little bit of an identity crisis towards the tail end of the year. We had such a really great start. Guys didn't necessarily know what to believe in terms of whether or not we were really good, whether or not, we just had kind of not so great of a schedule. So there was a little bit of that imposter syndrome that we had. So one of the things that we're really trying to, kind of, embrace this year is that we just want to take it one day at a time, consistently get better one day at a time. I mean, you listen to the great coaches, it's not so much the destination but more about the journey, right? We've really tried to focus on just really being in the moment and getting better every single day. For us, it's what we're really chasing is consistency. I think that's something that we've always really tried to chase here. The reality is that our conference as a whole has gotten better year over year. There's really nowhere to hide anymore. I mean, you've got Albion and Hope, who are phenomenal programs. I mean, offensively, defensively, those guys have really done a phenomenal job. I think we've got really great coaches in the conference, and you've started to see that with every other program. I mean, Kalamazoo has done really well. Coach Wetzel has done a phenomenal job with Adrian, and Coach Hoger has done a tremendous job with Calvin. And and Alma, we're not too far removed from Alma playing for a conference championship as well. Years ago. So the conference as a whole has really gotten better. So it's really, what are we doing on a daily basis to obviously continue to get our program better as it relates to the region, but what can we do to help prepare us for those 6 games in April? Essentially, our conference schedule is really, really tough with the way it's set up. I mean, it's essentially 3 weeks and you're playing Wednesday, Saturday, and then you throw a Tuesday in there. So, you might have to play a Hope or an Albion on short rest. So it's kind of a gauntlet. You really can't have any bad days. So for us, it's really trying to build that legitimate confidence that you have, but also, trying to prepare yourself for, that stretch of games, because there are no easy games in our conference anymore.
One of the threads in some of the previews we've already talked about, is that the MIAA has certainly gone in the last 10 years, and specifically maybe over the last 5 years, has certainly gotten some national recognition. Mm-hmm. Obviously, having an NCAA berth helps, but now you've got to start to win, and you're getting closer as those games come along. So I think that's something that changes the premise. Plus, I think the destination of the education that is offered in the MIAA also, you have to look at that as being certainly a plus, because at the end of the day, there's not a lot of guys coming out of the MIAA that are going to end up playing in the NLL or PLL.
Yep.
So it becomes where they're going to school. But the competition is gotten so much better. And I think that's a tribute to the coaches, as you mentioned. Brief background: you're a Long Island guy, so that's a good start, because most of the best lacrosse in the country certainly has started there or played there. There might be an argument from some guys in Baltimore, but nevertheless, in Central New York. Just give us a brief synopsis from Long Island. I know you were at Lincoln Memorial in Tennessee. Just kind of give us a trail.
Yeah, it's I think it's kind of funny, right? Like we talk about this with Coach Lang quite a bit. Like, everybody has a story, right? And I think younger coaches don't necessarily have as they don't have to. People cut their teeth, but years and years ago, you would see guys have to go many different pathways to kind of get to a place that they wanted to be. So for me, I grew up on Long Island, born and raised. I started my collegiate career. I played for the legendary coach Jim Conan, who's still kicking around on Long Island. He's the coach at Hauppauge and was the coach for Team Long Island for a ton of years. But I started my collegiate career at Adelphi, played for Sandy Capitos, and then finished up at Manhattanville College, played for Dan Mulholland. And towards the end of my college career, I went to school to be a teacher and a coach, just like probably 95% of the guys that you've talked to. I mean, every guy that got into coaching on Long Island, went to school to be a teacher. But towards the end of my career, as a player, my coach, Coach Mulholland said to me, he goes, "Hey, you kind of have a knack for this. Why don't you try and get somebody to pay for your master's degree, give college coaching a try?" And that kind of set me off the path, right? So I took my first assistant coaching job at Hendrix College down in Arkansas. So the first time I literally left Long Island was after I left college. I'm going to be honest with you, everything north of the George Washington Bridge at that time I thought was Canada. Everything south I thought was Mexico. And then here I am, this kid. I was probably the prototypical Long Island guy, going out to Arkansas, right? Seeing things that I never thought that I would see. So I did that for a year. It was awesome. And then Coach Mulholland called after my first year out there and said, "Hey, why don't you come back to New York, come back to Civilization, and come coach with me?" So I moved back and coached with him for 4 years. Was doing some schooling, working on my master's degree at the time. But at that point, I kind of knew I wanted to be a college coach. So I worked a few different jobs. I worked for a lacrosse company, doing team sales. I worked for a water company, Hint Water. So I worked in New York City. I mean, I remember I'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:30. I'd have to be in Queens by 5:30, 6 o'clock, meet with the sales reps, go meet my accounts. And then I'd be up in the Bronx by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I'd go to practice. I'd stay after so that I didn't have to sit in New York traffic. And then I come home and do it all over again. So I did that for 4 years, got my first head coaching job out here in, about 2012 at Defiance College. Came out here, loved the Midwest, met my wife. And then about a year and a half there, I got offered the opportunity to start the program at Lincoln Memorial, Division II program. And then moved on down there. So I was there for roughly about 5 or 6 years. Had the opportunity to move back to Long Island and start my own business and coach at Choram Wading River. Won the state championship there, did all that stuff. My wife was finishing her doctorate at the time. And she kind of said, "Hey, I'd love the opportunity to move back to the Midwest. I'm not really a Long Island girl," which I could understand because it's a different world out there. But and then that brought us back to the Midwest and, kind of did a couple of things here and there and then ended up here at Trine, which is, oddly enough, which is about, 30 minutes from where my wife grew up. My wife actually teaches here. She's one of the deans in the exercise science department. And we actually always knew this place because, Lake James here, which is where her family, we would go on the boat every summer, for the last 10 or 15 years. So there were a lot of cool things that kind of came full circle to help get me to Trine, which, I'm really thankful for.
The only school that has an actual apartment, or in this case, a motel room that's actually in the stadium. I don't know if you guys still have that or not.
We do. If you, we actually have one of the families is spending the night there next week for our home opener. And then, going to use it to watch the game on Sunday. So it's kind of cool.
Just give me, we'll wrap up a little bit here. The last question, just give me some thoughts and nice ideas on your team and what the expectations are for you this year in the league.
Well, I think once again we're going to be relatively young. I think there's a lot of young guys in key spots for us. 2 years ago, after my first year, we graduated almost our entire starting defense. So we've really kind of spent the last couple of years kind of rebuilding that. I think we've got some really athletic, aggressive defenders there. And, we're finally starting to hit our stride offensively in terms of, being able to have a full understanding of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. I think, this year we've made some changes to our schedule to kind of help prepare us for our, conference slate. Kind of like I said, there's nowhere to hide. You've got really, really strong teams. I mean, the nice part about it is that on any given day, there's a good chance that somebody can get upset. Or somebody, if you have a bad day, it can be a rough day for you. So, for us, it's really, like I said, kind of been trying to fight and build that consistency, which I think we're going to get. I think we've got some really solid guys on the offense. I think we're strong at the face-off. And then defensively, as things come together, I think it's going to be fun to see. I'm cautiously optimistic going into this season with kind of what we have, and I think for us, we've really demanded more out of our guys this year than we have in years past. There's been more of a commitment to doing the things off the field, like in the weight room, kind of doing some of those things on their individual time, getting, trying to get that edge. We track our edge workouts, right? So, we always say, like, if you're just trying to do, from 3 to 5, if that's all you're dependent on to try and catch, Hope and Albion, you're going to be up the creek without a paddle, right? Like, you have to kind of put in that extra work to try and catch those guys. And one of the things that we've really kind of focused, and now having been here a couple of years, is that, about 90% of our team is engineers, right? As our season starts to ramp up, their coursework ramps up. So for us, it's, we've kind of hit a wall these last 2 years in the month of April. The challenge for us as a coaching staff is, what are we doing to try and make sure that from a mental standpoint, we're still fresh in that month of April? Because, there are times where, we'll have guys come out to practice and their eyes are like rolled in the back of their heads. It's like, some of the stuff that they're doing, whether it's senior design, their junior year, they're going through the gauntlet in terms of what they're doing academically. It's almost like that time. By the time you start to figure things out academically, that's when the stuff starts to get really tough. So it's, how do we find that balance, right? What are we doing to keep their bodies athletic, physically fresh, but more importantly, what are we doing to keep their mental state kind of moving forward? So that's kind of the fun thing that we're really trying to address. And, credit to the guys this year. They're doing a really nice job of trying to make sure that, they're doing those things. So, like everybody talks about, it's a marathon, not a sprint. If we stay healthy, we got a good chance. If we don't, we're going to have to get creative.
Well, listen, as you start your fourth season at Trine, we certainly hope the best for you in the MIAA season this year. We will hopefully be checking in during the year, see how things are going, and please spend a couple seconds to say hi to Coach for me as well.
I will. Vinny Lang is the man, and he will be happy to hear from you.
Thanks.
I want to thank Ryan for taking some time out to speak with us about Trine University. I think it's a really cool interview. So if you have been down to Angola, you're driving to Chicago, check out the university. And we'll be back with David Hoger from Calvin. We'll talk a little bit about his program and the influx. And we're going to talk a little bit about goalies with David. So I think that'll be kind of interesting. So we'll be back with him in a second.
Welcome back to the 2022 MIAA Men's Lacrosse Preview. We get a chance now to talk to Calvin head coach David Hoger. Talking to David from Grand Rapids on a pretty sunny day. I'm assuming the sun is open there in your part of the state.
I'll tell you what, yeah, past couple of weeks have been awesome here. Ever since we got that storm, it's been in the 40s pretty much the whole time.
I can tell you as a ski coach in the winter, I'm not a happy guy, but when you can go outside and play lacrosse when it's 55 degrees, as it will be in the next couple of days, it certainly makes February a lot more enjoyable. So, first of all, thank you for taking the time to come aboard. And I guess just kind of give us a synopsis. How are things, how has the season started for you?
Yeah, it's been great. I think we have a really large junior class this year, and so we've been pretty young the last 2 years, and they've really kind of come into their own and have come back with kind of a renewed perspective and just kind of attention to detail, right? And so I think practices have been more competitive than they've ever been, and in my 8 years here, and they've just showed to really lead well, come together well, be able to compete and then still be friends off the field. And so it's been a lot of fun so far. So we're definitely still work in progress, as everyone is this time of year, but real excited for the group that we have.
Let's talk about you briefly. You were a Philadelphia kid, kind of grew up in Pennsylvania, played at Eastern as a goaltender. Kind of take us through the thread a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So I was born in Philadelphia and then did most of my growing up in New Jersey. Went to Hightstown High School there in New Jersey. And then after high school, I decided that I wanted to play in college, got an opportunity to play at Eastern University, a Division III school about 20 minutes west of Philadelphia, and had a great 4 years there. Really enjoyed my experience, and then right after graduation, I got an opportunity to get into coaching right away. Kevin Wallace, who was the head coach at that time, kind of asked me right after graduation what I was doing, and I didn't really know. I went down the teaching route in school, and through my time, really decided that I like coaching a lot more than I like teaching, and there's obviously a lot of overlap there, but anyway, got an opportunity to start coaching there as the goalie coach, and kind of assisted the defense a little bit there for 3 years, and got a lot of experience running the box and a lot of other things. And then in the fall of 2015, I moved on to Frostburg State University in Maryland and was a defensive coordinator there under Tommy Pierce for a year. And and then in the fall of 2016, the job at Calvin opened up, and I first time ever in the state of Michigan was for my interview here, and got the job and have been here ever since. And Grand Rapids has been a great place to me so far.
7-10 in 2023. What do you have to do to improve in 2024?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think a lot of it was, I don't like to blame being young, but I think that a large portion of our team the last couple of years was very young. And so if you look at some of our games, we lost a few games by 2 or less goals in the past couple of years. And I think a lot of that was experience, growing pains, and I think a cultural shift, right, that has happened over the last couple of years. And so we could be 7-10 again this year, right? I don't know, but I do believe that we're again come back with a large group of juniors that are leading well, along with a small group of seniors that is doing the same thing. And our sophomores and freshmen have really kind of taken hold of their roles, right, and responsibilities on the team. And so ultimately, I think it was just a shift in perspective and a shift in the way that we needed to play to be successful on the field, right? And for us this year, a lot of that is coming together and playing more team ball, right, than relying on some individuals that we've had in the past that were pretty talented to go get us points. We now have to rely on taking advantage of what the defense has given us and, playing as a team and really working together to create advantages and opportunities for us to put the ball in the back of the net.
As a goalie, do you consider yourself an offensive or defensive coach?
Yeah, I've done it all at this point in my career, right? And so I think that I have a pretty good understanding of both and widespread. I think I started certainly on the defensive side of the ball and had a better understanding of that, but have been heavily involved in helping our offense grow here, right? Especially over the past few years. And so I've learned a lot from a lot of great coaches that know a lot more about lacrosse than I do. And so it's been fun to kind of work with both sides of the ball, now that we have both an offensive and defensive coordinator.
Okay, but if you were explaining to your wife and in your heart, are you an offensive or defensive guy? I'm curious. And I asked that question. All
right. Sure. At my core, I'm a defensive person, I would say.
Okay. I asked that question because it's I believe it to be a 50-50 with goalies. I'm an offensive guy, and sure. I could not. My defensive coordinator is the happiest guy in the world because I never stick my nose at anything he does. So that's I get your point, but I just wondered in terms of what's in the back of the cranium when you're laying in bed at night. You're thinking more about defense and offense, and sure. I think that's true of you got to be one or the other. You can't be both.
Yeah,
I think that's
no, I hear you, and I do think if you're asking what keeps me up at night is how we're going to score goals, right? Because that's how you win the game. But I think my brain is wired more defensively naturally.
Okay. No, I get that. Now you guys open up Tuesday the 13th against Davenport. Does it help playing a Division II school? Does it help playing a little stronger program?
Yeah, I think that was kind of just circumstances. The first time we're going to be playing them in the regular season, and so I'm excited to. I know they brought back a lot of talented kids, and they did a really good job last year putting the ball in the back of the net and playing some style of offense that that is more kind of a box style of offense that we don't see very often, honestly, with a lot of other teams, right? And so I think that'll be a unique challenge in the first game of the year, and our guys are really excited about that, right? Excited to play a team that's so close and really get an opportunity to kind of test where we're at early in the season and continue to build from there.
The MIAA has really gotten quite a bit of recognition in the last few years. Like the bottom of the league has certainly gotten much better over the last 10 years. You might have a 7-10 record at this point, but you're a solid program. The programs in MIAA, having an NCAA berth opportunity to go play in the tournament helps. But to what do you attribute? You've been there 8 years. You've seen the league grow. What is in your mind? What's maybe a couple of tenets that have helped raise the play and certainly the talent in the league?
Yeah. I want to first say that I think that we have some awesome coaches in the league. I think that we've had a lot of longevity at most places at this point in the league. And you look at the top end right now, right? It's Hope and Albion, and they are their coaches have been there a really long time, right? And have recruited well and have gotten the right guys to fit their style. And I believe the same thing about us too, right? While we're kind of catching up a little bit from a record standpoint, I think that we have had consistency. And I think that coupled with just the growth of the sport in the Midwest, even in the last 8 years that I've been here, I think it's continued to explode. Illinois coming on as, now not a club sport, right, but actually a school sponsored sport. And, that has really helped, I think, the state of Illinois, which has a lot of lacrosse players in it, right? And so, I think Michigan is doing well with adding teams and creating more opportunities at the youth level to get guys involved. And I think all of that we're starting, just kind of starting to see the fruits of that as kids in high school now didn't just pick up a stick freshman or sophomore year, but have actually been playing for an extended period of time and have become skilled lacrosse players.
With the quality of education in the MIAA, which is second to none, you also get a lot of kids that might be able to play at a higher level, but are coming to schools like Calvin, like Trine, like a lot of schools, specifically because they know they're not going to make it in the PLL or the NLO. And even if they do, they make enough money. They make less money than the videographer does at a Division I program in some cases.
Sure.
And my point to that is I think kids are making better decisions. And I think they're, it's part of that process, but the league is certainly taken on a much grander reputation nationally than it might have had even 10 years ago. So I think that's
absolutely
for sure.
Yeah, I think some of our schools have a national draw, right? So we get kids not only from the Midwest but from all over who, like you said, want to come get a great education. And we have engineering and other and some of our other teams in the league have some of those majors that you can't find everywhere, right? Especially at the Division III level, and also get to play lacrosse, right? And so I think, we have definitely a few things going for us in the league with that.
Well, being an East Sider over in Detroit and having lived all over the country, but now that I'm older, I'm back to where I started. If I were a 27-year-old graduate, and I'd move to Grand Rapids in a heartbeat. We spent an awful lot of time on that part of the world. It's that side of the state has improved so much over the years. Not that it was bad before. It's just a great place to live. So, David, we appreciate you taking the time, and we wish you the best of luck and good luck this season.
Thank you. And thanks for your time, and thanks for what you're doing for the sport of lacrosse. I appreciate it.
As we finish up our MIAA preview for 2024, we'll bring you the next installment on Friday with 4 more programs and 4 more teams. And we wanted to thank Jake, David, and certainly Ryan for spending some time with us this week. And best to all of the guys in the MIAA. I think it's a great league. And for everybody in back for this edition of the Michigan Lacrosse Review, my name is Greg Norman. See you next time.